Hello everybody, this is Jasmina, and in this video I'm going to talk about adjusting your BaZi's climate. And this is it's another way to balance your chart, sort of like we did with elements, but it is different. This is focused on balancing your chart in a way that improves your problem-solving skills, and that improves your ability to succeed, to make money and be able to move forward in life, become, get a promotion, get a raise, all that kind of stuff. So it's focused on really your ability to solve problems. It's different than balancing your BaZi. There we're talking about balancing the elements, and this more has to do with your like your overall view of life, or your overall mental state, how easy it is for you to easily deal with problems. I mean, if you have a balanced BaZi, you tend to be able to deal with problems and your emotions and everything in a much more balanced way. So you don't get angry too easily. You, you know, uh, and even when things make you angry, you approach them in a more methodical way. So you don't, it's not all emotions. So this is one way to look at that. But adjusting your BaZi's climate is more precise. So in the balancing your BaZi, you just use an element. Could use the yin or yang version of it. It doesn't matter. Here it's more precise because it's saying you need to use the that particular element's skill set to become a better problem solver. Now, which of the 10 gods that you'll need, and there's sometimes more than one, but which one you need will depend on your day master and the season, which is the month in which you were born. If health is an issue, you use the useful god instead of trying to balance your climate or balance your chart. You use the useful god. So you need to know what you need to fix in your life, what part of your chart do you need to work on. Now, for climate adjustment, it's either going to be adjusted for temperature or it's going to be adjusted for humidity. Typically, it's not both, but one will look like you're doing both. So a BaZi will be classified as cold, warm, or hot. Sometimes people will say hot, damp, or dry. So it's pretty clear that if you have a cold BaZi, you need heat. If you have a warm or hot BaZi, you need something to cool it down. So that's the temperature adjustment. If it's damp, you need something to dry it. And if it's dry, you need some water. It's pretty straightforward. And the seasons themselves also have some general properties which go into automatically adjusting the climate. So sometimes a person born in a certain season automatically has a better overall chart for the climate based on the month they're born for the same day master. The spring months are the tiger, rabbit, and dragon months, and these are the Chinese solar months, not the lunar months, but the solar months. And it's considered well, it starts out as cool and goes to warm or hot, and it is wet. There's usually a fair amount of rain in the spring, for not everywhere, but on the climate as a whole. The summer months are the snake, the horse, and the goat months, and it's usually hot and dry. That's what its climate is. If the autumn months are the monkey, the rooster, and the dog months, and this starts out warm, goes to cool, and it's dry. So that's its general thing. And the winter months are the pig, the rat, and the ox months, and this is cold and wet. So you can pretty much tell what is needed. It's really the hot and the cold that need to have temperature adjustment, and these guys are temperature are roughly okay, so they need the humidity adjustment. Now, just as in the overall balancing of your chart, when they say use a certain element, they actually mean developing and using the skills of people that that already have a high level of that element. They are naturally good at certain things. That that element gives them these skills. You don't use the element as an element. You don't. If it says water, it doesn't mean you need to surround your house with a moat. Uh, it means something else. And a lot of people, even practitioners who don't have a good understanding of Chinese and the Chinese language texts out there, they get this wrong because they don't know any better. And they didn't have a good teacher, usually. Now, generally, picking up a skill that you have either a weak element or it's not an element that is in your chart, it's not easy. It's not meant to be easy. It's meant to be useful. It's meant to make your life better. That means you're going to have to work at it. And of course, a lot of people don't like that. They don't want to have to learn something new. And that's where the problem lies if they're not happy with where they are. So you need to answer these two questions. Are you interested in an easy life, one that you don't have to work and don't have to learn anything new, and you are okay with your current level of success? The answer is yes or no. And if you want an easy life and you're not happy with your current level of success, the answer is no. Just to be clear about that. Or the other alternatives, are you willing to work hard, improve your skills to have a more fulfilling life and more success? This one might be no to begin with and yes second, but the answer then would have to be yes. So they come together. You probably only want half of it, but it's the second part that's the key. The answer is up to you. If you answer yes to this and no to this, and basically that's fine if you're happy with your current life, because you're doing okay in whatever your level of desired life, you're doing okay. If that's true, you can stop watching this video because you don't need the information that I'm going to give you, because this is all about how to improve your life, improve specifically your problem-solving ability. And the more problems you can solve, the more success you generally have. So most of this information comes from a paper. It's really like a journal, almost like a journal article, but it's not from a journal. It seems as though it is a group, or maybe it's an individual, but they go by the name of the Great Tao is Simple. That is my best understanding. This, of course, is translated to English. And according to that, not everybody needs climate adjustment. And I will try to put this in the information about I want to put this link there. So this is a Chinese language text, just so you know it right from the beginning. But I'll try to put this in the description of the video so you can find this and click on it there. You're not going to click on the video because the video is just an image where I am narrating. So it's, of course, not an interactive thing. Now, if you're born in the winter and summer seasons, it says you need a temperature adjustment. The winter, of course, needs fire, it needs some heat, and the winter needs water because water cools. You may think you're adjusting for humidity, but what you're doing is adjusting for temperature. I think everybody knows when it rains, it cools down. It may be stickier, it may feel not so cool, but the actual temperature is reduced because as the rain falls, it continues to evaporate, and that cools the air. It's simple physics. Now, those born in the goat and the dog months need water because these are the months that are dry. And these are two animal signs are the earth animal signs. And those born in the ox and the dragon months, again, two earth animals, they need dryness. So these two need the humidity adjustment. And then it goes on to say that those born in the tiger, rabbit, monkey, or rooster months need no climate adjustment. And because of what follows, I actually had my husband read this, and he is a native Chinese speaker and reader. So he says, yes, this is exactly what it says. However, when you read farther in this, it goes on to give adjustments for the tiger, rabbit, monkey, and rooster months. Those, and for everyday master, it tells you this. So it's self-contradictory, but I think what that means really, not said so well, but that these 4 months, people born in these 4 months tend to have less problems, and maybe they do not need an adjustment, but if they're having problems, he tells you how to adjust it. That seems to be what's going on. But it is a little confusing, and he does have some Chinese spelling errors in here, where he's mixing up the G, the yin earth, with the snake. Now, those two characters are very, very similar. And I think he also has some issue with the dog. There's another character that is, it has a slightly different style stroke in one place, and it means two different things. And so there's a few spelling errors, but it's understandable. You know, it's like a typo. You can understand what it means. So although he does state that those born in the tiger, rabbit, and monkey or rooster months need no climate adjustment, maybe it's not absolutely necessary, maybe that's what he means, they do still have a useful God. And you can still look at the chart balance, the overall elemental balance, that is. But they definitely have a useful God. Those born in the goat or dog months, they definitely have climate adjustment gods. Usually one, sometimes there's some extra auxiliary ones, but it's usually going to be metal and water, and they also have a useful God. And as does the ox and the dragon, but in this case it's wood and fire. Now, these three are all the animals born in the spring or the fall or autumn. And finding the useful God is not easy for these people. And if you happen to fall into any one of those months, I can't tell you what your useful God is. I can tell you which group of elements may be your useful God, but I can't pick out the one. You need a real seasoned practitioner to be able to do this. And they probably won't be cheap because they'll be good. So, you know, but remember, the useful God is about health. If you're not having health problems, you don't necessarily need to know what your useful God is. And in fact, you can experiment because you'll have a few to pick from and see if one makes you feel better. That is usually how you would do it if you don't want to pay to find out what your useful God is. Now, people born in the winter, they have their both their climate adjustment god and useful god is almost always fire. They do have to have some fire in their chart, though. And even if it's only in one place in the hidden stem, that's good enough. People born in the summer have both their climate adjustment god and their useful god as water. Again, they must have a little bit of water, at least one little bit of water somewhere in their chart to have water as their useful god. And if they don't, if the winter-born person has no fire or the summer-born person has no water, you're back to having to get probably a master to look at your chart, because this is fairly rare and it's very hard then to determine what it is. And so, again, remember, useful God is about health. Here, when it comes to climate adjustment, they usually give you an alternative if there's an issue where you don't have something that you really need that's missing. They often give you a different way to get to it. So it's not quite as bad as the useful God, because of course, to me, health is one of the most primary things, because if you don't have health, it's very hard to succeed. So that's why useful gods are very important if you're not healthy. But if you're healthy, don't worry about it. You can concentrate on being good, which is what this video was mostly about. Now, the elements, the animal signs have elements associated with them, and they're based on the 24 mountains. And then the 4 earth animals come in, and they come in on basically in the positions where we have the non-element, non-animal sign. There's 4 of them, and that finishes everything. So what we have here is, in the springtime, the tiger and the rabbit, which are wood animals, they are cold and wet wood, or warm and wet wood. So this, is warming up. Whereas the dragon is warm and wet earth. So these are the wet wood, this will be wet earth. The summer, it's dry, so every one of these is dry. The horse and the snake are associated with fire, and so it's dry fire. And it's either warm or hot. And the goat is hot and dry earth. And so this tells you something. This is why the dragon and the goat, the ox and the dog are treated a bit differently, because it's a different element. And so in autumn, metal is the strong one. So, and the monkey and the rooster are metal. And so this is why it's hot or warm and dry metal. But the dog is warm and dry earth. And the winter months, they are cold and wet, either water or earth, where the pig and the rat, they have water as their element. So this actually tells you exactly what needs to change. So in the spring and the autumn, these are humidity adjustments, because they're basically within a okay temperature range. So here we tend to adjust the humidity, and in the summer and the winter, we adjust the temperature. So there, in this article that I quoted earlier, the one that I'm primarily using, there is usually a main climate adjustment element that is one of the 10 gods, and often there are also supporting adjustment elements. Sometimes they are supporting the main climate, sometimes they're adjusting, also having some effect on the daymaster. So it can be either one. So, and what this article that I'm using agrees fairly well with other stuff that's out there, but it's not like this is the one set in stone and the one that's absolutely correct. But in general, it's correct, and it's at least on the right path. Now, the adjustment for each daymaster, again, will depend on the month of birth. So for the same daymaster, depending what month you were born, you may have very different recommendations. So this is why you have to learn this, or have to know exactly what to do for your particular situation. Just as in using your useful God or balancing your BaZi, using an element is learning, expanding, practicing the skills that given element naturally exhibits. This is not easy for most people, but this is how to improve your life. And if you don't work at this, your life is very unlikely to improve. You might get lucky, that's always possible. But relying on luck usually makes you old and poor because luck is fairly hard to come by. So, what do we mean by the skills? So, wood, if it says you need wood as either a useful God or as a balancing, well, actually, a useful God, it's more specific, and you can watch the video about that. But if we're talking about balancing your BaZi or using climate adjustment, we're talking about growth. That is learning, becoming better at something, expanding your knowledge base, expanding your skills in general. And if it's the Yang version, it's a little more dedicated, it's a little bit narrower focused, but it's still learning more and understanding more and being able to approach a problem in a different way. It's just a little bit more restricted than the Yin. The Yin version is more flexible. They tend to have a broader spectrum of interests, whereas the Yang tends to be a little bit more restricted. So, for example, a Yang wood daymaster or someone strong in Yang wood may just be interested in one thing, let's say science. Whereas a Yin wood person could be interested in science and metaphysics and art and language, and they have a very broad spectrum of interest compared to the Yang. But it's all about learning and growing, becoming better, learning more, understanding more. That's what wood is all about. When it comes to fire, it's about passion and energy too. The Yang is more energetic. So they tend to be people who are quite physically active because they have a lot of energy and it feels good to get the energy out so they can concentrate better on something else once they have, worked out and, gotten rid of some of the excess energy. And they usually are quite passionate people. They have some real interests, and they do tend to be a little bit more restricted because, they have this interest, and the rest of it, yeah, they'll work on it, but it's not a big deal. They really do have a passion. The Yin is more transformational. So this is the idea of, okay, they still have a lot of energy. What they want to do, however, is not just work out or play games. They may be someone who like builds a house or builds furniture. They take the raw materials of wood and they create something out of it. So they transform things. So they still want to do things. They have the energy to want to do things, but they don't just want to exercise. They want something real to come out of their efforts. Something that can actually be used. So it is a different type of viewpoint, but they still both use energy and they both use passion. For Earth, this is more about stability. And this is probably a bit more problematic in our current time when things are changing so fast. People that have a lot of Earth in their chart tend to be not so comfortable now because things are changing fast and they're just not very comfortable with it. So this is the one that has the most challenges. But sometimes you need some stability. For example, if what you will see later, water is about adaptability. Sometimes they're too adaptable and they need some stability. So the yang version is very stable. This is usually represented by a mountain mostly made of rock that doesn't change. It takes millennia to see changes in a mountain, unless humans have something to do with it, or a volcano. But they're very, very stable. Whereas yin is represented by the soil where we grow plants that feed us and feed animals that feed us. So this is more nurturing. It is still wants stability, but its point of view is different. These people like to help others, whereas these people are just more like, let's just keep the status quo. I'm happy. I help others, yes, but my whole point of living is to feel secure. Whereas these people are trying to help others feel better and feel more secure. So it's a slightly different viewpoint. For metal, it's mostly about focus. Yang tends to be more in depth and smaller in scope, whereas yin is broader and a little less depth. But they can focus. I mean, they look at things a little bit broader and then they pick something to focus on. Whereas yang pretty much zooms in to one place pretty quickly. So it's just slightly different methods of becoming focused. Adaptability is water. Water, it conforms to the container it's in, so it's extremely adaptable. The yang version is a bit more dedicated to change for change's sake, perhaps. And they tend to go more deep into, okay, this needs changing, so let's see how far that can go. Whereas yin is a bit more, it's less depth and broader, just like for metal. It says, yes, all these things can change. Any one of these is better than doing nothing, but maybe we don't zoom in, go really deep, really fast, because a lot of for example, Earth people will have a real problem with this. So it is broader and shallower, but it still is all about looking at various different aspects, accepting a lot of different viewpoints, and they're okay with it, and it doesn't bother them, whereas it would bother someone who has a lot of earth in their chart. Now, as we go through this, you may see there are some combinations of day master and month that the day master strength can come into play. And this is the table, and you've seen this before if you've watched the video I'll talk about in a second. This is actually just from there. So you find out what month you were born, and you find your element, your day master element, and this will tell you what strength it is. So it's pretty straightforward. Now, also the overall chart strength may also come into play. So there, I have the video that talks about day master strength and chart balance, tells you both things in the same video. If you need to understand that, you can watch that. But the BaZi calculator, the free BaZi calculator website, has, I think it will tell you the overall strength. It won't tell you this, but this is an easy table to use. So you'll get that if you do the free BaZi calculator website analysis. Joey Yap doesn't tell you this, but he does in a more general way by looking at your chart. But this is very specific. Now, I am going to be pronouncing these in the Chinese way. I'm not going to be saying yang wood, yin wood, and that gets really old. So you may want to take a screenshot of this So I will have the character written in Chinese, and then you'll have this listed here so you know what I'm talking about. And these are pronounced jia, yi, bing, ding, and I'll try to be very careful with those two because they're very close together in pronunciation. Wu, ji, geng, xin, ren, and kui. And I might pronounce it as kui, more of a K sound, which is what I usually hear. But that may be my weirdness of my ears. Or it might actually be more of a Cantonese pronunciation. But either way, it's the only one that sounds even somewhat like that. So what I'm doing here is I'm basically just providing you a English language translation of the text from the Great Taoist Simple article that I mentioned quite a bit ago. But I will also tell you what it means in terms of actions. And I have a very specific reason for doing both. I could just go to what does it mean? But I think you miss a real important point if I just do that. I want to make it clear that when the Chinese text says use an element, it means perform certain actions or gain certain skills. This idea, use an element, is a type of code. That's like saying if you say, I am a Yang Fire Daymaster. If you tell me that, I know that you're very likely to be very passionate, have quite a bit of energy, you can really get things done, and that you're a go-getter. I mean, that's code. The idea, Fire Day Master, that's code for these properties of a person. And that's exactly what using an element means. It's code for properties of basically that person. And that is a person who has that element. So unless you take a class in Qigong or BaZi, you won't understand this. And of course, I have taken classes in both, especially I just recently finished a BaZi class. And if you don't understand this, and you don't understand Chinese, and you don't understand this whole idea, you see people who are practicing, and that's, I'm air quoting here, BaZi, with the idea that, oh, using an element means actually physically putting that element into your life. That's dead wrong. That's not what it means. Remember, this is code. And so if you hear someone say, oh, you need fire, so wear red, they don't understand this. And this is really, really crucial if you want to improve your life. So someone tells you to wear red as a BaZi practitioner, you pretty much can ignore them, because they really don't understand this key point. So if you are watching more than one of the day masters, one of the elements, I do both the yin and yang together, then you can go to this time, and it will tell you, it will give you to this slide, and you can just start watching the rest of the information and skip the intro because the intro will be the same. So now we go on to Yang Fire. This is for a Bing Day Master. This represents passion and energy. It needs wood to fuel the energy. So if you don't have much wood in your chart, you may not be able to fully develop a passion, or you may not have a whole lot of energy to work with. So that is the thing with Yang Fire. And you do need some wood to be able to fuel your passion. Now these two guys are grayed out because the author of the article that I'm translating for you guys says that the tiger, the rabbit, the monkey, and the rooster don't need climate adjustment, but he goes on to show the climate adjustment, or I don't know if it's a he, but whomever. And I'm just graying them out to let you know this may not be so needed. And if you aren't having problems, you don't, I mean, and that's true of any of these things, if you're not having problems, you don't need any climate adjustment. You're doing okay. So we're talking about here Bing, daymasters, being born in spring. Now, spring wood is strong. It is abundant. It is actually at its strongest point. It is what they would call prosperous. Now, wood is the fuel for fire. So this is a time when you can have the negative effects of having a Bing Daymaster come out. And the negative effects are basically your passion is so high, you don't pay attention to your health, you don't sleep enough, you don't eat well, you don't exercise, and then you fall ill because your immune system breaks down because you're not your habits aren't good enough to keep you healthy, and then you take time to recover, and then you start all over again. So the downside of having Bing as a daymaster is something that you end up being sick repeatedly because you're just overdoing it. So that is a real challenge in spring because fire is strong because it has wood as its resources. So it's all there for it to burn. So if you are a Bing Daymaster born in the month of the Tiger, you need run water and gung metal. So the run water is needed to basically balance the intensity of the fire. It tamps down on fire because water controls fire. And the gung actually uh, is the source for the water that keeps that strong. And also, fire is weakened by having some metal there too. So it has a dual purpose. Now, if you are a Bing Daymaster born in the month of the rabbit, this is a little bit more subtle. We still use run water to tamp down to allow you to keep a healthy, basically healthy schedule. And the G earth, the yin earth, it converts basically it it's what can come out of fire because fire produces earth, and basically it's more towards nurturing. You want to use, it's telling you you need to use your passion to nurture things, to make the world a better place, basically. Now, if you happen to have abundance of water in your chart already, you're going to use Wu Earth to control it. And in a little bit, of course, I will tell you what all this means in real life. But if you have a weak chart, and here's one of these cases where we look at the chart strength, the overall chart strength. If the chart is weak, resources is helpful. Then in this case, that's wood. But you would have to have, I mean, we do know that a Bing Daymaster born in the month of the rabbit is going to have a strong Daymaster. The Daymaster itself will be strong. But it could have so many opposing things in the chart that the overall chart is weak. So that's why you look at the overall chart strength. And in that case, you would want to have a little bit of wood, or you put wood into your life. Now, for a Bing Daymaster born in the month of the dragon, you basically just need, really only need run water. You only need the Jia wood if the earth is abundant in your chart. And abundant would mean over 60% if you're looking at the Joey App chart. And this is where the Joey App chart helps the most because it will tell you basically when you have a lot of anything. And it's in a more, I think, a more readable form. But if you look at your pie chart for your earth. If the earth is the biggest, that means, yeah, it's fairly abundant. Unless it's pretty much everything is equal. And then if everything is pretty much equal in the pie chart, then nothing is really abundant. Everything is balanced. And then if that were your case, you wouldn't need the Ja wood. So what does all this mean in reality, in real life? Well, for a Bing Daymaster born in the month of the Tiger, they need adaptability. Water represents adaptability, flexibility, and metal represents focus. So there needs to be a lot more adaptability in this person's life. They have to be a lot less focused on their passion, because these are the people who will get repeatedly sick because they just keep burning themselves out. If they're able to be more adaptable in their routine, and they really focus on not letting their passion run away with them, they don't get sick. And so they can have their passion keep going, and in the long run their life is better because they can just keep going, and they don't have to keep taking breaks because they're exhausted. This is a pretty important thing, because you see people like this. They're very passionate, but then they have these downtimes when, or they actually get so burned out that their passion dies for a while. And I mean, this is what writer's block is like. That is one of the examples you could say of this, although that might be a little different. I'm not a writer, so I don't really understand that fully. But I do see people who end up, working really, really hard, and then they get sick, and then they have to start all over again. And so that's usually not good. And if you do this kind of thing, you often have hard time at work too. You don't, if you keep getting sick, you're going to get fired. So this is an important thing. Now, for a Bing Fire Daymaster born in the month of the Rabbit, it's a little bit different. They still need more they need to be flexible. They need, if they using their passion to help others, that makes them feel a lot better. And so they tend to be able to step away more easily, because once they feel like they're helping others, they feel like they've done part of their job. Now they can take a little break. And so it's easier for them to take breaks. But if water is abundant in the chart, you need to use like stability, which is, this is, the earth represents stability. And this would be like maybe a more stable routine, maybe a stability in a relationship that helps them, that points out to them, you've worked too long, it's time to take a little break. That could be an example. But, nowadays, I think Siri, is that one of those things on a watch? That'll do it for you. Say, you need to take a break. You need to walk around. That is a possibility. I don't have any of those things, but I do occasionally hear of people that use this. But education will help you if your overall chart is weak. Now, your Daymaster is going to be strong, but your chart could still be weak. So education does help, and that's what wood is in terms of fire. Wood is the resource. So that can help you perhaps tighten up your passion, or make it better, make it easier, make yourself more productive, so that you don't have to spend quite as much time in your passion, so that you can balance your life a little better. Now, if you're Bing Daymaster, born in the Dragon month, it's a little bit easier in some ways. You basically just need some flexibility, and you need to ease up a little bit on your passion, because this is, wood is high, you have a lot of fuel mostly, for your passion. So there is some danger that you burn yourself out. Um, I think that part is clear, but being flexible with your schedule, being flexible with what you do is a little better. Now, if Earth is strong in your chart, in the chart where you're looking at, and it's your chart, uh, education helps produce flexibility because this allows you to see different pathways. Now, education does not have to be formal education. It can be, for some things, it can be through the internet and still be good quality. For other things, it could be apprenticeship. Uh, it could be just reading books even, which is rare these days, but it can help. So it depends on, attending conferences is another way to educate yourself. So you don't necessarily need formal education, but that is one route you can take. It all depends on what your particular passion happens to need. Because there are a lot of passions that really don't have classes you can take at a university. So, so you just have to kind of be flexible. That is the overall thing for all of these. You have to be flexible, and you've got to be less focused on your passion. It has a part of your life, but if it's too big of a part of your life, you usually end up getting sick repeatedly. Same thing is true in the summer because fire is already strongest in the summer. So overuse can again cause illness and exhaust you and really disrupt your life and disrupt your passion because you're just worn out. So if you're Bing Daymaster born in the month of the snake, you really need water. You need the yang form and the yin form. And you also need some gung, the metal, to also weaken the fire. And it also is a source for water. But if you have no run water, no yang water, you use yin water. So, and I think that it is a little bit easier. Let's hope you have some water in your chart. If you don't have water in your chart, it may be a very difficult thing. You have to find a way to add water. I mean, through activity, of course. But I do think that the yin water is easier to add than the yang water, and that's why it says to use this. Now, if you're Bing, born in the month of the horse, then you basically are just using water and metal. The, the metal produces the water, and the water is what calms down the fire so that it doesn't overwhelm you. And, uh, and it does say that it's best if both of these, the run and the gung, have roots. So you would see these two characters somewhere in the hidden stems of your chart. And it doesn't matter, they don't have to be together, but the monkey will do that for both. So if you have a monkey, you already know you have this. But you don't have to have a monkey. You can have these two in two different branches or two different pillars, and that will also still root both of these. So you don't have to have a monkey. Now, if you're Bing, born in the month of the goat, it's the same, basically the same thing, except for they're not so worried about rooting. So you just basically need water. Now, you've already heard what water means, and of course, fire usually needs water. So it means you need flexibility. You need to be able to adapt to your circumstances because things can change, and so you simply have to be able to adapt. And you need to focus on taming your passion to a level that won't result in the repeated illness cycle from becoming exhausted. Because this is a real danger for people with Bing born in the summer because fire is already so strong. So their passions tend to be very, very strong. And they need to learn to control that to a point where they can function better and function more long term without completely exhausting themselves all the time. So for the horse, someone with Bing born in the month of the horse, again, you need flexibility and you need balance. You need to be focused on balancing your passion to a level that will keep you healthy. And in this case, it really helps if they're rooted, which means they're stronger. These two elements would be stronger. Uh, and this also means that this is in your heaven stem and your hidden stem. That's what this means. If something is rooted, it has to be one place it'll be in the heaven stem and another place it'll be in the hidden stem. Now again, monkey will do that for you. The horse, this one doesn't do it for you, but but there are other animal signs that will do this too. So you just have to look for it. And if you're a Bing day master born in the month of the goat, then flexibility and focus are again what you need to balance the level of passion so that you stay healthy, that you can keep your passion without keep getting burned out. And again, this is summer. Fire can easily be too passionate and can easily exhaust itself and get ill. It can even lose its passion because it's just overdoes it. The passion usually comes back, but it can take a while. So this is for autumn. Autumn, metal is the strongest. Now metal is controlled by fire. So this actually isn't quite as bad as the spring or the summer because this automatically is going to weaken the Bing a bit. So it usually is a little bit less likely that you will be ill so often because your passion isn't quite as strong. It doesn't mean you don't have passion. It's just not as strong, which is a healthy thing. But here, what we need, if you are Bing day master born in the month of the monkey, you still need to have run water, but you also need to have the woo earth if the run water is too abundant in your chart. Again, that's usually too abundant would mean over 85%, but you kind of have to judge what is too much for you as an individual. Sometimes this could be over 60%. And there will be a way to tell, and I'll talk about that on the general slide that tells you everything. For a Bing day master born in the month of the rooster, you need just water. So both yang and yin water. And you probably know what that means by now, but we'll see. And if you are a Bing day master born in a month of the dog, you're going to need some Jia wood to loosen the earth because this is the roots of the tree breaking up the earth. It allows water to penetrate, which is helpful. And you also need water. You need run water. So now we're going to talk about what this really means. So if you're a Bing born in the month of the monkey, you need flexibility and dedication to being flexible. That is, you need to focus on being flexible because this is still pretty, fire is only a little bit weakened here because this is the start of the autumn. So you still can get burnt out relatively easily. If you have too much, that is, and I would say definitely over 85%, or if water is clearly your most abundant element, Then you need to use some stability, which comes from the woo earth, to balance the flexibility. That is, you need to have some sort of like routine, uh, because you could get too passionate about being flexible. I mean that that is the weird thing. This is kind of like on a teeter-totter right now because it's between it's between the summer and the autumn. You know, it's that first month. Especially if you're born very early in the month, you may actually become too flexible, and that can tamp down on your passion. So a you have some sort of balance here. You have to find enough stability so that you can stay focused on your passion without just focusing on flexibility. So this is a bit of a knife edge kind of thing. So you have to find that balance. If you're Bing Fire, born in the month of the rooster, then you basically need you need to focus on flexibility. You need to be a lot more relaxed about maybe how you go about your passion, because people that are quite passionate can be also quite rigid because they they've had success in doing one thing and they don't want to change, but maybe that's change is what they need to actually become better at doing whatever it is they are passionate about. So this is the idea here is that you still need adaptability so that you can become better at doing whatever you're passionate about. And if you are born in the month of the dog and you're Bing as your day master, then you need education. Education broadens your view. Again, this doesn't have to be formal. Oftentimes, formal education does this best, but it depends on what you know what your passion happens to be. Sometime apprenticeship is better, and maybe apprenticing for a couple different people gives you this broader education for your passion. It depends on what kind of passion it is. And that automatically allows you to become more flexible and adaptable. And that makes it easier for you to become better, find the best route for you to follow your passion. And here, passion doesn't tend to burn you out quite so easily, except for perhaps during the monkey month. That might be possible. And so that's the overall view. And again, this is, I think, a bit healthier for people that are Bing Fire because Bing Fire can, really burn you out. Now, we are now in the winter. In the winter, water is already very abundant. Overuse of water can basically lead to lack of direction. You just be very scattered. And there are definitely people like that. And people that just go with the flow and, don't have goals in life, they often are also high in water. And so if you're a Bing Day Master born in the month of the pig, this is quite complicated. It all depends on what's in your chart, which one you use. So if you have a lot of fire in your chart, you're going to use water. If you have too much water, you're going to use wood. If you got too much wood, you're going to use metal. And if you have problem with repeated illness, you're going to use earth. And so this will make more sense when we come to that last page for the Bing. But I think by now you might actually understand this. I hope you do. You see the pattern and you've heard what it actually means in real life. If you're a Bing Fire, born in the month of the rat, it's still somewhat complicated, but it's less so. You are going now. This is what it says in the one I talked about earlier. The reference way back at the beginning of this video. it actually says these two yang elements strengthen the yang fire. But we've been using water and earth, water and earth to actually weaken. And these two actually weaken this. And when you read that, this would confuse many people. However, when we go to what does this mean in terms of actions, this makes a lot more sense. So this is how we absolutely know. This is not just looking at it elementally. Instead, you really have to look at it as actions. And of course, if you have no Wu Earth, you're going to use Ji Earth. They're both Earth. You can use either one, but Wu Earth is a little more effective. And if you are a Bing Fire born in the month of the ox, you basically need to balance flexibility and you also need some sort of fuel because this is the coldest month, hardest for the fire to survive, and it would be a very weak daymaster if you are a Bing born in the month of the ox, and so you need a bit of wood to fuel your passion, and I think you know what that means, but we'll see. So if you're a Bing fire born in the month of the pig, you look at what you have. If you have a lot of fire in your chart, then you have to be dedicated to being more flexible, seeing more ways to get what you want done, basically. You know, the way that you are doing your passion doesn't necessarily is the best way. So this helps you become basically more efficient at doing whatever it is that you're passionate about. That's what flexibility gives you. Now, if water is high, that usually means over 85% if you're talking about the Joey Yap chart. You use education to fuel your passion so that you are able, you may want to do something, but you may not know how to do it well. And that's where education comes in. And again, this doesn't have to be formal education. It can be something like an apprenticeship. That's usually the best one for passion because you usually need some real interaction and something that's really focused on doing whatever you're passionate about. And it's usually an unpaid internship, unfortunately, but that's the way it is. Now, if wood is too high, you use focus to reduce the amount you're learning because you might be over, you might be feeling your fire a little too much and get burned out because you're just trying to apply too many things. So sometimes you have to reduce it. You have to look at the big picture, which is a problem with people that have a lot of metal, but you're using focus to take that big picture, focus on the right thing, and that's how you learn just what you need to learn for your passion. And if you don't have a large amount of wood, you don't have to worry about this. You'll be okay. If you find yourself getting repeatedly ill, and because you burn yourself out, then you need to create a stable routine in your life so that you don't keep burning yourself out, that you put limits on your passion. And that's true even in wintertime, but this is the start of winter, so it isn't quite so strong and so cold that you have trouble with passion. So you can still burn yourself out even if you're born in the wintertime. If you're a Bing fire born in the month of the rat, then you need to find a balance between flexibility and stability. So having a good routine, a healthy routine is great, but you also have to regularly seek information that helps you do something different in your passion to maybe make it more efficient, so that you can stick to your stable routine better as you become more productive. You can take on more clients. You can earn more money. That is the idea with flexibility. It's making you more efficient at your passion. Now, this will also nurture your passion because the more you learn, the more interesting it gets. And that's flexibility is basically new information. Now, if there's no woo in your chart, you will be using the G Earth, and that will help you nurture your passion using flexibility to see the other paths, and also you will tend to feel more of the need to help others. If you don't have woo, but you do have G, you probably, your passion, if you turn it towards helping others, will help fuel the passion. And this is wintertime. Water is very abundant. Usually passion is pretty low, or relatively speaking, it's low. So you may need something to help the passion stay alive. But in this case, you still need some stability to do so. And if you're a Bing master, day master, and you're born in the month of the ox, this is the coldest month. This is the hardest month for the fire. So this is the one that you actually need the wood. You need to use wood, which is education. And you also need to be a little more flexible, because if you're not flexible, education doesn't sink in. But you use these two, the flexibility and the education, that ends up refining, that's making it more efficient and better, and fueling your passion. And this is the one that really needs wood, because this is the coldest, nastiest month for a Bing fire to be born in. So now we go on to Ding fire. And this represents passion and transformation. And it, of course, needs wood to fuel it, and the season can fuel it for most people. But the transformation means, okay, there are several types of passions. One passion is just doing something. It could be with just ideas. But in this case, this person is passionate about creating something physical. Whereas with the Bing fire, it can be physical, it doesn't have to be. But here, this has to be physical. So that's like creating a beautiful piece of furniture, or creating a beautiful house. And this could even be through architecture, where you're just designing it, but usually you're also feel the need to be on site while the house is being built, or the building's being built, at least at certain points in time. And you feel that need to see your vision put into reality. So this is how it's different than Bing fire. Ding fire wants to see a physical result. So they feel like they've really done something. That is my understanding anyway. So again, we start with spring, and wood is the strongest. So there's plenty of fuel for the ding. So we don't usually worry about the fuel here. But this is spring, and it's a little bit on the weak side, because this is the coldest part. And so a little bit of extra heat helps. So a little bit of wood helps create a bit more heat. But you're going to be using the gung metal, which is usually represented by an axe, to chop down some trees so that you can use it to fuel your fire. And this is one of the few that need a little bit of extra help, because this is just as spring is breaking. Wood is not very strong yet. Now for the rabbit, you still need the metal more. You need to be chopping more wood. You're still going to be feeding the fire. And this is real fire. This represents real fire, not The Bing is more sun. It's like the sun. It's light, it's enlightenment, whereas Ding is more real fire, which transforms things. I mean, you burn wood, it turns to ash. Things are transformed. So this is where that idea comes through. And again, for all of spring, even though wood is the strongest, this is what Ding really needs. It needs the wood to burn. So again, you're going to, it's basically all the same. The order is just a little different. Here, you're going to have to make sure you get enough wood. And this removes helps remove the yin wood. Now, rabbit is yin wood. So this, so this is like brush and stuff getting in the way that is preventing trees from growing, uh, or taking nutrients from the ground that you want the trees to use instead. So this is why you're focusing on the trees and not the plants. That's what these two things represent. So this is why you're going to be using the metal here. And this is the description from that uh, uh, the reference given, I don't know, a long time, near the top of this video. So what does this mean? Well, wood means education. So, and metal means focus. So you need to be focusing on education that is relevant to your passion. And that allows your passion to grow, and you usually get better at making an idea turn into reality. So you become more efficient at your job. That's what the education does. And it allows you to transform ideas, also from one field to another field. That leads to new understanding. So you may learn something that you don't think is relevant to your passion, but when you learn that, you realize you can apply it to your passion. So that's why education is so important, is that this can give you something new that nobody else is doing, and that really works. So this is why education is really, really key for a Ding Day Master. Really, almost regardless what month they're born, but certainly in the spring. Now, in the case of the rabbit, a Ding Day Master born in the rabbit month, you're going to have to narrow your focus a bit more to just studying things directly related to your passion. That doesn't mean you don't use other ideas, because you probably have to learn something that seems a little unrelated to be able to understand something that is related. I mean, that's why you have all these, when you go to college, they make you take all these classes, like you have to take a certain amount of math before you can take physics, because otherwise you won't understand the physics. That is there, and you might have something like that happen with it too. And you can try the more advanced thing, and you may find, okay, I need to learn something else. And that is something that I could say happens even in Chinese metaphysics. You have to learn things kind of in the right order, or you have to start at the right point to be able to understand the whole thing. So this is true for everything. But you can still transform ideas just by randomly watching people do something, hearing something. This can actually also help you transform your own passion, make it more efficient, make it very different, and be very unique. So that is pretty cool. And then you have the Ding Day Master, born in the month of the dragon. Again, it's education. And the more you learn, usually the better you're able to become better at your passion and maybe do something that nobody else is doing. And that is usually a way to really be prominent and gain fame, by doing something that works, but that's different than everybody else. So let's go on to the summer. Now, fire is already strong, and of course, overuse is a possible problem here. And but still in the snake, it's still in the beginning. This is, I mean, the ding is real heat, and so it can take more heat than the bing can without becoming too large. So it's actually it's usually more like you're feeding it until you get to the height of summer. So we're still using the wood and the metal to feed the fire. For the horse month, this is the month where you don't see any wood. And that's because the fire is the strongest this month. So that the heat from the sun basically. And so here we are trying to calm it down a little bit because this is more likely to get into the condition where you repeatedly come sick because you keep getting burned out. But we still need some metal to keep the water strong because we really need the water. And if you're a Ding Daymaster born in the month of the goat, here we reintroduce a bit of wood, but wood cannot be used unless you also have the metal, because you can't use wood without metal is a forest fire. Okay, you haven't chopped down the wood, put it into pieces so that you can burn it. It means the trees standing there living are all on fire. So uh, that is that isn't good. So that's why you must have both of these to be able to use the wood. Otherwise, you simply use the water. If you don't have the wood, you just use the water. And so this is a little tricky. So you really have to understand what's in your chart. So what does this mean? Ding fire, born in the month of the snake, you need to focus on education again. This will allow you to become better at your passion and maybe see new ways of doing it that other people aren't doing. You could become either a lot more efficient or you could do things that are very unique and unusual, and you can easily gain fame that way. And most people who have the fire as their daymaster do have they do have a desire to have some fame. So the Ding Daymaster born in the month of the horse, you have to become more flexible because your passion is usually quite strong here. And if you have a very strong passion, oftentimes you're not very flexible because you're more interested in expressing your passion than actually using it better so that you can get more done. It's just not that much of a focus. It's not so much of a focus for a daymaster born in the month of the horse to be really efficient. They are more they're somebody whose passion can be a bit harmful to them. So they need to be more flexible and also kind of reduce the heat by being more flexible. So that usually means they maybe they spend a bit less time on their passion, maybe a little more time on their health or something like this, or maybe on their family. They need to be less focused on their passion. Now, for the Ding fire, born in the month of the goat, you need flexibility again. You need this regardless of anything. And if you have the metal, then that also feeds the water, which again is part of flexibility, which makes it easier for you to be flexible. Now, you can use wood to fuel a transformation. That is, the education can help you really discover something new, but you can't use that without the metal. If you don't have metal in your chart, you simply focus on being more flexible. If you have the metal, the yang metal in your chart, you can then use education. If you don't have the metal, you tend to run away with the education, and that becomes a passion. And then you've got the problem of a wood day master where you just keep learning and you never apply it. So this is the danger. That's why you need to have you need the metal here to make sure you're using the education focused on your passion. So now here's the autumn. Metal is stronger, and metal is different. I mean, it does reduce the fire because fire controls metal, so it does weaken it a bit. But overuse leads to missing the big picture. So, but here, usually with a passion, you don't have such a hard time with the big picture. You may have more trouble with focus because you're just you are you're most day masters, fire day masters, actually have really good big pictures. They know what they want. Sometimes they have trouble getting there though. So a Ding Daymaster born in the month of the monkey has this thing where, okay, you've got a lot of complications here. That's pretty common. And remember, the ones that are grayed out, the author of the reference that I've been using, it says they don't actually need uh, any type of adjustment to the climate, but he does give these adjustments. So, well, I guess it's only if there's a problem. Do you need this? But here, of course, we're using wood and metal, so that's basically chopping down trees. That allows you to feed the fire. And but you here passion can be a little bit murky. You may need extra passion. Usually this is passion, but this could be more transformational and you don't have quite the vision. This can help with the vision. And but if water is strong, you need to use the earth, the woo earth, to control it. And I, I think if you've been watching the whole thing, you will know exactly what this means, but we'll see. I will tell you after I'm finished here what it actually means. So if you're a Ding Daymaster, born in the month of the rooster, again, you have it's basically the same thing. It's almost identical. In fact, it is identical. So it's, again, you need to feed the fire, but you may need a bit more pure passion and less just wanting to transform things, because that is pretty much what Ding does. And if you are a Ding Daymaster born in the month of the dog, you you tend to have, I mean, the dog is earth, so you tend to have more earth, but you're still going to use this combination here to feed, and you only use the earth if there is also the wood. So if you don't have the wood, then basically what you're left with is just the metal. And if you don't have the metal, I honestly don't know what to do. But this, other than put this into your life in terms of energies. But if you don't have any of these needed elements in your chart, that usually makes it harder to do because you are really trying to pick up skills that you don't generally have any natural talent for. But it can still make your life better. You just have to work harder. But again, remember, adjusting your climate means actions. That's what it really means. So for the monkey, you're going to use education, focused education, to fuel your passion and increase basically the amount of energy spent on education to do so. You you really have to focus on education at a certain point. Again, this does not mean formal education. It can be, but it can also mean things like apprenticeships. Now, if water is high in your chart, and that usually means over 85%, but it may mean even over 60, you have to judge this kind of on yourself. You need to use stability. That is usually a routine. This helps control your wandering attention, and it helps you focus again on what your passion is. So you can easily have a passion here, but sometimes it's hard to focus on it. And that's perhaps because the metal feeds the water, and if you have a lot of water in your chart, it's going to make it worse. So the Ding, Daymaster born in the month of the rooster, is basically, again, you use education to fuel your passion, and it's identical. So you just reread it. Again, these two might not need it because they are part of the monkey, rooster, tiger, rabbit, which might not need fixing. So I would say you do this only if you have an issue. And for the dog, you're going to use focused education. You're going to be laser focused on what you need to fuel your passion. But don't rely on routine unless you also have education in your chart. I mean, you need education in your chart. So if you're going to use routine. If you don't have this in your chart, you don't have to worry about routine. You'll be fine. You're not going to burn yourself out because your passion isn't quite so strong. So that means you automatically have a better balance in your life. So this one is pretty easy. It doesn't matter what, as long as you are a Ding Daymaster, if you're born in the winter, it doesn't matter which month, you have the same rules. And you've seen this before. You probably already know what it means. And of course, winter, water is strong. So Ding really needs some help because it needs real fuel. And of course, overuse of water leads to lack of direction, which can be a real problem for a Ding Daymaster born in the winter. So this is easy. You're going to use focused education to fuel your passion. This is, it just says you do need education here. You need that to help see different possible pathways. If you can make doing your passion easier to do, which is what education can do for you, that makes your passion stronger. And it does need strengthening in the wintertime. And again, education does not have to be formal education. It can be. It depends on what you're doing. If you are are passionate about being an architect, you pretty much have to have formal education if you really want to be an architect, because many states you can't be an architect except for yourself by just learning without actually having all kinds of certificates, and you have to become qualified, you have to pass tests. I mean, I have a relative who is an architect, and there's a lot of hoops they have to jump through. But if you're not into architecture, you may be able to get away with just some apprenticeships somewhere to help learn something more about your particular passion. So I'd like to thank you for watching. I hope this was useful to those of you who have a Bing or Ding Daymaster. And again, if you aren't having problems, you don't need this, but you might be able to help somebody else, help guide them to learn what skills they need to do to actually have a better chance of succeeding in life, because of course this is what climate adjustment is all about. Thanks again for watching.